All right, guys, you got your boy Jess Stingren here today, and today we're back with some Reverse Sites 99 content, and it is finally time to use our boy Ezio in a showcase. So let's actually pull him up. So this is what my Ezio looks like right now. I've been using him quite a bit. I've been testing him from from when I got home from work and when the banner went live. I was able to play for a little bit before I went into work. I just got back home from work. I tested him a little bit some more. And yeah, I have a lot to say about this character. Anyway, let's go over his skills, his weapon choices, his inheritances, cubes, portraits, his reasoning since he's a human character. Let's talk about all of that in this video, then we'll showcase him, and I'll kind of just share more of my thoughts on Ezio. Alright, so his base effect, which is basically at as soon as you get the character, he converts his own Moxie value into synchronization, which at the start of the round he reaches 100% synchronization. He will basically be able to straight up just cast his ultimate outright, which is really cool, but it's also kind of annoying depending on the specific setup that you're going for. If you're looking to kind of rely on the Arrow of Faith setup, which is you lower an enemy down to 50%, then you Arrow of Faith, because the Arrow of Faith actually has one additional hit as opposed to the Edge of Faith, which is his axe skill. But the arrow skill, I think it hits like 3 times. So, you know, if that's kind of like your game plan, that can get a little annoying. It also is a little bit annoying for his ult setups because he gains synchronization faster, which can get in the way of it can get in the way of getting your allies to ult before he ults, because you can't turn this off essentially. Basically, as soon as that round starts and the game notices you're at 100%, you have to ult immediately. It doesn't take any AP. It doesn't do anything. You don't have to select it like you would a normal character. But for him, you basically have to ult. You can't just say, I don't want to do it this turn. No, you have to do it. You have to pick a target, pop off with the attack, and just have to kind of go from there. That's really the only annoying thing that I can really say about his effect. But for what it's worth, it's still pretty much fine. And whenever and this basically tells you how to build up his synchronization, which basically every skill of his is basically considered as an assassination. So it's always going to be a 5% boost of his synchronization, which is cool. Whenever he triggers his counter kill, which is his riposte skill, which we'll talk about that in a second, that's also a synchronization if he hits an enemy with the eyes caught debuff. And whenever he defeats an enemy off of attack, that's 10% synchronization. So he can actually naturally build into synchronization quite quickly. If he's in his ult team setup, he can build into it very fast because of its various bonuses that it provides off of his weapons, which I'll talk about when we talk about the weapon section. Insight 1 is whenever he's in the fighting experience status, he gains 15% damage taken reduction, which is really cool. If the attacker's in the eyes caught status, then that target will take 30% damage taken as an effect, which is pretty good. Pretty good. That's a really good I1 because that means he just hits harder for free on that target that has the eyes caught status. The really cool thing too, there's a real cool thing that you can do with one of his weapons that allows everyone to be in the eyes caught status, which basically means everyone will take that damage taken plus 30%, which is, I mean, free damage amp, sure, why not? I2, critical damage was 15% when entering the battle. Very good. I've always talked about it. It's also very much more important because this ties into his assassination mechanic. I've always talked about characters having a good crit technique, and I know you see it right there. 1106 critical technique. That is the highest in this entire game. That is insanity, by the way, guys. That's a very, very high crit technique. I believe our highest in the game, don't quote me on this, but I do believe it was Lucy prior to Ezio. And Lucy, I believe, had about close to 890 critical technique. He has 1,106. He has over 1,000 crit technique. Now, if you're probably wondering what crit technique is if you're new, crit technique is kind of like the base value that determines your base crit rate, damage before you spec into your build with reasoning, cube, and all that stuff. And the higher your crit technique, the better your ratios for your base crit rate, crit damage are going to be. The lower your crit technique, the lower your base crit rate, crit damage will be. And of course, depending on like cube choices and everything, you can still build them into decent crit. But having this allows for some really nutty setups, and I'll talk about that when we talk about his build and his cube choices. So insight 30 is whenever his HP falls below 30%, he will dispel all eyes caught on all enemies, and then he will enter the Shadow Stalk status for 1 round, which basically gives him an additional 30% critical damage boost, which on certain setups he reaches 100% crit rate, and he has 40% damage taken reduction, which is very good. That's very strong. And he will enter the trigger the assassination effect, and then gain 1 stack of Apprentice Assassin whenever an ally triggers this effect. Basically, if anybody in your team that has the assassination effect, it's only the other 2 Assassin's Creed characters that are coming later on. So Cassandra and Alexios, when they come towards the end of the month, I believe they released on the 28th of August, so in 20 more days. Then you can build off this effect. Normally, for right now, this effect is kind of useless because there really isn't no one that has the assassination effect in your team besides them. And what this does is, for Apprentice Assassin, this basically, when you get to 8 stacks, you get the Master Assassin effect, which basically is another version of his assassination effect, which basically gives him increased final damage bonus when attacking into a target for every 100 points of critical technique that he has over the enemy. Since he has such a massive critical technique, he oftenly, and I mean very much easily, outmaneuvers so many of the enemies in the game, because not a lot of enemies in the game have high crit techniques. They have about maybe 4, maybe 500 at the late game, like late end game, maybe sometimes 6. But the fact that he has, potentially, 500 to 600 points of critical techniques points over them, that's a lot of extra damage that he's just pumping out because he has so much. Now, the only thing is you can't buff your critical technique because it's your base value, so that doesn't work, but still very, very powerful. And let's talk about his skills now. His skills work in the dark. It is a up to 1000% reality damage, which is an insane modifier. I know I'm using a lot of crazy words like strong, big damage, and all that stuff, but you gotta understand, from all the time that I've played Reverse 1999 from the beginning, I know this is like a random tangent, I'm sorry, we haven't seen modifiers this high. Like, this is essentially what you call an ultimate attack. Like, this is 1000% on a 3-star cast. I mean, granted, it's 3-star, you're not gonna see it as much, but still, brother, chill. But yeah, I mean, 4-6 is very healthy numbers. And then of course it's also being boosted by the effect of the assassination. And the really cool thing is that this reflects the assassin mark on the target hit. And then basically whenever an ally attacks into that target, he basically follows up with a rank 1 version of Work in the Dark, which is again 400% reality damage, which is nice. I mean, hitting, potential 800% reality damage against 2 targets is pretty good. Of course, it's technically more because of the final damage bonus and everything, but still, that's still very good. His counter skill, which is an amazing skill, by the way, it is a self-counter effect that inflicts the eyes caught status onto that enemy with the most cute attack incantations for 1 round. After, he would gain the fighting experience effect for that round. So Eyes Caught is going to do this, and then fighting experience is whenever an ally is attacked or whenever he's attacked, he will riposte with the counter kill, which is a 500% reality attack that is triggered regardless of the modifier. So even if you do 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, this is always going to be the same modifier. This attack gains 50% critical damage, which is, he also has a way to get 100% critical rate before buffs, by the way, before buffs. He's broken, okay? Oh god, I'm having so much fun with this video. Anyway, when other allies are being attacked, riposte to deal 500% reality damage, and this attack also counts as an assassination, which of course means you get the additional final damage bonus off this attack as well. And yeah, simply put, very good skill. Comes with 50% critical damage bonus, which is kind of dumb. And then his ultimate. His ultimate is a effect where you select one enemy target and then you can cast either Arrow or Edge of Fate 3 times, and then you can cast Death Be Not Unkind on that target at the end. And of course, you cannot change that target. So basically, if you hit one target and then it like kind of like fall below 0 HP or something, you can't just go, okay, time to switch over. Can't do that. You have to commit to the whole bit, which is fine. And his Arrow and Edge effect are basically the exact same attack, it's just the hit counts are different. Arrow of Faith is better when an enemy is lower HP, and Edge is better when at a higher amount. One thing I've also noticed when using him too is that the native bonuses effect of either of their skills is applied at the time of cast. So let's say you're attacking an enemy that has like 55% HP, right? You would edge once and then they fall below 50%. You would then think Arrow of Faith is actually your best option. No, not at all. For some reason, Edge of Faith still proceeds to be the better option because the bonus reality damage effect is applied on the time of cast. So even if they fall below 50%, you're still going to have boosted Edge of Faiths, which is not bad. I mean, not bad at all. So that's really cool. And then his final hit will be the Death Be Not Unkind, which is a 700% reality damage attack that also counts as assassination. It also ignores dodge, which is kind of busted because you can I mean his other attacks also do it too, but that's so good for bosses that or stages that tend to be like real cheesy, so that's really good. But yeah, there's that. Next up is his weapon selection. Now his weapon selection allows him to kind of maneuver his kit to be supportive or allow him to fit into other archetypes. So his first weapon, which is the Venetian Falchion, if I'm saying that correctly, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. This basically works on his follow-up. So basically extra action support, which is really good. His Conatura Warhammer focuses on the ultimate effect of his kit. And the Captain's Sword focuses on the poison aspect, giving him various instances of poison, boosted Genesis damage, which is actually something that is very powerful for him and actually makes him a better Willow in that regard because of its consistency and reliability to burst with a specific setup. So anyway, let's talk about the sub weapons. The sub weapons all give you different bonuses to the main weapon based off of their effective bonus. So basically, the first weapon, which is the Channel Suquadia, if I look here at this bottom right here, whenever I enter the battle, I get 50% damage bonus, which is, again, pretty cool. And I get 100% crit rate into critical damage conversion, which is very powerful because that's a rare buff. You don't see that on every single character, so that's really good. So, very powerful. And the Butcher's Knife, you do keep the extra damage bonus effect, but you get, after an allied action, if an enemy dies, you will cast Work in the Dark on the enemy with the lowest HP. This attack counts as a follow-up attack and does not inflict the Assassin's Mark on that target, and that triggers up to 2 times per round. So, pretty nice, pretty nice. And then the Sultan's Knife is when entering the battle, own extra action damage, of course, same effect, that's the first effect, but you now are able to inflict his targeting debuff on every single enemy in the field, and you get an additional round for that effect. This is really good for chipping away at a stages that have a lot of adds, because this basically allows him to kind of act as kind of like the very strong counter tank, where you can just supply him with shields and then he can just do the counter and then just kind of really nuke down enemies. Since he has obviously a big synergy focus on doing crit rate and crit damage shenanigans, you can pair him with someone like Kip Arena, Miss New Babel, who actually helps him because she gives him a riposte bonus, which is actually pretty interesting to try. But yeah, for what it's worth, there's some cool synergies that you can really do with him to really make him strong. Next up is the Conatura Warhammer, which basically whenever you cast the ultimate each time, Arrow of Faith and Edge of Faith or Death Be Unkind, you for every point you get the final damage bonus effect. For the assassination bonus, you get 1 stack of Eagle's Guidance every single time an ally casts his ultimate. This basically is really good depending on the type of ultimate support you put him with. I believe his best amp for this is actually Hisbeth, because she can ult very quickly and very consistently. His best buffer may still just be Melania. I think in CN, I want to say maybe, I think maybe Jutien could maybe still be a potential better option. I don't know, because he's not actively casting his ult like repeatedly. So I don't know if that actively works. I would have to kind of look more into the CN side of things on that. But yeah. And then when using the channel Sugudia, you get the ultimate might plus 15%, which is nice. And then you get synchronization at the start of the round, which is pretty cool. And then the Butcher's Knife, you can get the additional damage bonus effect if attacking into a single target enemy. So basically, if it's just one enemy, no, spawns, adds, or whatever, then you get 30% damage dealt up, and then you get 50% synchronization after the ultimate. And then the Sultan's Knife is whenever an allied action or if an enemy target dies, you get 15% synchronization, which is good. Now, if you want my honest recommendation, I do think that Venite and Falchion and Channel Sukudia is his best pairing for extra action. For the Conductor on Warhammer, I do think that Channel Sukudia or Butcher Knife is good combinations depending on what's going on. If you have more than one enemy, then obviously you want to go Channel Sukudia, because that way you can just consistently get 15% synchronization. But if you have one big boss, like a Main's Bulletin or something, or just a big boss in like Reveries, then I do think going Butcher Knife is still actually fine, because as so long as they don't spawn anything, you're getting that extra 30% damage bonus effect, which is again very good. And then now we have his final weapon, which is the Captain's Sword, which is of course focusing on poison. So whenever he gains 10% synchronization at the end of the round, and he inflicts 1 instance of poison whenever hitting a target, and the user takes attack by 10% of Genesis damage. And when attacking, he can deal additional Genesis damage, which is based off of various stacks of poison. So the higher your stacks of poisons get, the more that they take from their Genesis. So basically, higher to get, stronger it gets. So yeah. And then of course the assassination effect is actually changed. So instead of doing regular final damage, it now deals increased Genesis damage instead. So pretty good. So when entering around, he gets 15% Genesis damage, and whenever he attacks into the target, he gets 1 additional instance of poison. This is really good for running him with Tuesday comps. Would recommend. The Butcher's Knife is when attack has no other allies, and when hindering the target, inflicts 2 instances of poison on that target for 3 rounds. Again, really good if you're going the poison route against a single target boss or a just big enemy that has no spawns. It's a really good way to really accumulate a bunch of poison consistently, because remember, if you're running him with someone like Tuesday, like Sotheby, you get a lot of poison very quickly, which is really nice. When entering the battle, of course, you get 50% more, and after an enemy dies, the instances of poison that are inherited by each of the enemy remaining allies can go to a target, which it basically takes up to 10 stacks of that inherited poison. This is very good if you kill an enemy with Genesis damage and you're using like Tuesday's Field, or if you're just trying to continuously keep up that reversion of just poison stacking, because obviously, since Ezio's single target and his partners could be, I mean, his partners are AoE, but you're focusing your main poison on one particular target. Like if you're using him with Tuesday, for example, you're focusing on one singular target that throws as much Genesis as you can, so his attacks can deal massive damage. At least you're getting some type of recursion effect where you can get the 10 stacks off of that enemy and put it onto someone else, which of course means you can accelerate into then doing more damage to the next enemy. So that's still pretty good. I do think that Channel Sugudia or Sultan's Knife are his best combinations for the Captain's Sword personally, but I do again see the reason why you would want to run Butcher Knife. All of these are pretty good, honestly, for poison. All of these are pretty good. It just really just depends on what you prefer. I prefer running Channel Sugudia because it's just straight up extra instances. It doesn't take you that much time to really accumulate more stacks of poison if someone dies off of the enemy side, especially if you're running them with Tuesday's Field too, because remember, their poison stacks don't expire until the array ends. So there's that. Let's go and talk about his cube choices. He actually has some pretty cool choices. Of course, his general best in slot is going to be his own cube, as the bell tolls. Is basically when the character is an assassination character, which obviously he is. He gets final damage plus 2% for this attack, and when triggering assassination, he can get up to 36% critical damage at max at A5, which is pretty good. If you're looking to run him with follow-up, you can run him with Argus's cube, or you can run him with Ju Neon's cube. It really just depends on what you personally prefer. If you want stronger follow-ups, I do think that Outside the City maybe edges out a win, depending on what you're invested into with him. Because basically what this cube does is for every one target attack, or one target attack through extra action, you can get up to a max of 50% critical damage, which is at A5. And then if you get 10 stacks, you get another 12% of crit rate, which this effectively would get you 78% critical damage if he's able to convert all of this, which is kind of nutty. But Argus' cube gives you extra incantation might support, which is pretty nice, and it gives you still more additional critical damage as well, while also providing you with crit rate. So I mean, yeah. Also, this effect doesn't run out because he doesn't have any mass attacks at all. I mean, unless you run him with the counter route and then you... Actually, that's not even a mass counting incantation now that I think it's a mass riposte. So technically that doesn't even get rid of it. So Straight Out the Path is still also a really good option. If you want to run him on poison, Falling for a Sweet Phenomenon is his best option for sure, because he's a star character, so he gets all of these bonuses. He gets the extra critical damage, he gets the extra Genesis dealt, and that stacks up to 5 times, giving him a massive 60% Genesis damage boost after everything's been done. Of course, at A5, which you can use greeds on, which are a lot more accessible to get. If you didn't do the 37 Antidote Cube event, or if you never had the ability to do the event, just throw on his own cube, because it still gives him attack. So, yeah. But it doesn't really help too much for poison. But anyway, that is that. Let's go and talk about his portraits. At P1, when triggering assassination and the master assassination stats, the boost now goes up to 10% final damage. And when using Branding of Fate or Arrow of Fate, you can now cast it up to 4 times without any sort of, modifier. So that means you don't have to go ult path for the additional cast, which is nice. At P2, he enhances his weapons, so let's see what he does. The enhanced Falchion, which now inflicts 2 stacks in the assassin's mark on the target, which makes his follow-ups a lot more consistent. And the enhanced Warhammer will grant you 2 stacks of Eagle's Guidance, and when each time Arrow of Faith or Death Beyond Faith, you get final damage boost by 2.5% of a bonus. And the enhanced Captain's Sword gives you improved Genesis damage when attacking for the effect. So 80 Genesis damage. This gives you 1.5 times Genesis damage. And for 10 instances of Genesis damage, you get Genesis ratio of 2.5 for 2.5. And then at P3, his ult then gets improved again, which it gets now final damage plus 11%. And then when casting Work in the Dark, which is this main attacking skill, its modifiers get boosted to 460, 675 to 1125. And when casting Branding or Arrow of Faith, he now deals 140 to 100% on both skills. P4, again, another boost to his ultimate, which gives another amount, which now boosts up the effect to 12%. Serve the Light now deals 600% riposte damage, and when allies are being attacked, it now deals 600% reality damage. When casting Branding of Faith, Death Beyond Kind now deals 200% reality damage, which is nice. And in P5, his weapon effects are enhanced again. So this one now is due to combinations. So the combination now of Vonitae, Falchion, and Channel Cyclodia, his now own extra damage now gain a 100% damage bonus, which is dumb. And now he gains a 150% crit rate to crit damage conversion rate. This is the highest in the game. We normally have 100% or lesser values like Loperis 40. This now effectively means like for every 1 crit rate, you're getting about 1.5 to 2% critical damage, which is disgusting. And then Falchion Butcher Knife, you now get the upper limit of the cast of Work in the Dark, which is now increased to 4. And his fighting experience and Eyes Caught now lasts for an additional round, which basically means I believe you can get up to 3 rounds just based off of the P5 effect, which is pretty cool. And let's see here. So the Connoisseur Warhammer and stuff like that, you get Ultimate Might 40%, you get Synchronization plus 20%, and these are all the bonuses here. And the enhanced Captain Sword, which gives you 20% Genesis damage, inflict 2 instances of poison instead. You can inflict 3 instances of poison when using him with the Butcher Knife, which is, if they assist the enemy by itself. And the Captain Sword with Sultan's Knife, you get the you can inherit all 20 stacks of instances of poison from that enemy, which again is very, very powerful. And yeah, if you want my honest recommendation on portraits, you could stop at P1. P1's a good stopping point, or P2. P1, P2 are his prime stopping points. 3 and 4 are great, don't get me wrong, because obviously it's better damage for his overall kit. But yeah, but if you're obviously going to go the full Mad Lat route, go P5. By all means, go right ahead. And this is his reasoning. This is for rank 12. As you can see, he has 52% crit rate, 39% critical damage. This is the build that we're using. We're using Aspirational as the resonance pattern of choice. If you want, for poison, you could potentially run Stoop Fiction just for extra attack. But I don't think it's really important as opposed to just running just straight crit damage builds. I think that's just the most comfortable. And these are his stat totals with the cube that I have in mind. As you can see, I have over 100% critical rate on base. And almost 200% on base, well, basically over 200% critical damage after his bonus. That's really, really high. Because for contrast, I'm gonna go over to my Lucy because I talk about her by having the highest critical technique. Look at the difference. I mean, she still has 200% critical damage on base, but look at that critical rate. She only has like about, if I were to do rough math, like close to 70% crit rate on start, which is, you know, good. Don't get me wrong, because that doesn't mean you don't need much buffs. But Ezio has 100% on start because of his ridiculously high critical technique. Like, yeah, dude. But anyway, that is going to be everything that you should need to know about Ezio. Now let's get into the gameplay section. Let's show him off. And yeah. Alright, so this is going to be the team we're going to be showing them up. This is again going to be based off the follow-up path. We're going to be using Flutter, obviously, for her ability to grant him extra damage bonus support, Kipperina for her shields, and which also grant critical rate, Mercuria for the crit rate, crit damage buff, and yeah, let's get right into it. They will disconcert here, which is a little annoying because it means I can't get Mercuria or Flutter pages of buffs up, but I think it's fine. Sets buff, let's this, let us, actually, I get this into this into this. Actually, no, I'll buff first. I'll buff first. Attack, work in the dark. So that way I can get that follow up. And then I'll do this. I don't really need to put up Kipperina's shield just yet, because I know next turn she's going to be able to double cast. There's the Assassin's Mark. He's going to follow up. Boom. 600k out the gate, which is very strong. 73k, 89k, 84, okay, 92k. God, it's so strong. He's so fucking strong. It's just not fair, dude. He's so strong for no reason. So K-Burn's gonna get all 3 of her follow-ups here, which is really good. I can buff here just to actually let us buff this. Actually, do I want to set up another like double play? I mean, I could. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Buff, and then we'll buff some more Mercury, then we'll just do this. And they're all attacking this round, so they're going to be able to hit everybody. Oh my god, 104k. There's the Master Assassin's buff now active. Like, I do think that playing him with his riposte is, oh my god. Oh my lord. 270k. We didn't even get a chance to do our ults yet. We didn't even get a chance to do our ults yet, gang. What? Crazy numbers, crazy numbers. But I do think going his riposte is obviously his best way to play, because I mean, just look at what you can pull off with it. You know what I mean? You can pull off some really dumb strategies. Alright, so the next one is actually going to be for Poison, which is going to be our next showcase. So give me a second. Let me change the team around. Let me change up his gear really quick. And I'll be right back. Alright, so we are here now with the Poison team. We have set up the team that we're going to run. We're going to run with Tuesday, so to be in Flutter page. Willow actually is a pretty good option here because Willow allows you to rack up more instances of poison because of her I1. But Flutter Page also makes for a really good partner here too, because Flutter Page can actually buff up your Genesis damage when she's in her Do Mother Earth effect, which is pretty nice. So I figured I'd go ahead and throw her in here. If not, if you don't have Flutter or Soul to Be, you can just actually throw in Willow. Willow would be good because you don't have to actively commit to any action with Willow because you're going to let Ezio kind of take care of everything. But you're just really allowing Willow just to kind of add the extra 2 stacks of poison every single time an ally attacks. So what Ezio would then be doing because of his riposte, he would actually be able to spread a lot more poison. So let's get right into it. We got the rank up on the counter. I guess that's cool. And then we'll counter just to kind of set that up for ourselves. So at this point now, we kind of want to get ourselves into Genesis damage as quick as we possibly can, because we want Tuesdays filled up ASAP. So let's this, and then we will just this into, I guess, another counters. That'll get them both their ults going. Of course, that means we can get quicker access to a Do Mother Earth, which is what we need for Flutter Page's effect. So I do believe we're at it now. Yep, so now we're in Do Mother Earth. Cool. So you need to take a look at the enemy here. See all that poison just racking up all that poison. Alright, so let us this for more poison. Tuesday alt this. This, and sure. It's gonna give us some more poison. Now all the stacks are not gonna go anywhere because Tuesday's field is now active for her array effect. Flutter Page is also getting into her stuff. Ooh, 24k on Genesis damage, not bad. We do need to heal with Soul to Be soon, so let's go ahead and do that. He's almost dead by the poison alone. So we'll just start focusing on you. Sure. Couldn't even see the damage number there because it was kind of high. So now he's in Shadow Stalk, which is cool. Ooh, 10k. I mean, not 10k, 100k. 100k. 13k. Oh my god. The Genesis. Okay, cool. We getting it with an ult too. Cool. That's really cool. We're getting it with the ult. So yeah, we're using Arrow of Faith. Did you just see that? 131k? 140k? 14082? Okay, let's see how much he does in Genesis. That was 63. I saw a 63. But yeah, that was insane. Alright, Tuesday's array field goes away next turn, which is fine by me. we will just simply just promote the pressure, and sure, we'll throw you in here too. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's gonna die. I think it has 2 more stacks of Moribund, which we can really eat through very quickly, especially with the poison. I also really like this fight because they do have the whole Moribund thing, so it prevents it from being like a complete cheese. Boom. Which, boom. There we go. Really hard to see the Genesis numbers there, though, because of the enemy stature. But, yeah, very, very high numbers. I didn't show off his damage, which was the last time, but as you can see, he dealt a lot of damage. And, yeah. But that's going to be it for the showcase. Let me know what you guys think about Ezio in the comment section below. He's amazing. Simply put, I don't think under any circumstance, if you're summoning in this game, that you should skip Ezio. Like, he's really good. He's a really good character. Like, undeniably so. Like, man. Anyway, this has been your boy Stingren. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!